I think my studio is the only comprehensive high-tech stone studio in the world. From the digital design of the sculptures to the robot milling, and then all the handwork will all go on in one facility. I think people at the high end of the art world understand that there's kind of studios like this, more or less. But for your average person, I think they're really curious about what's the system that supports this thing? And it's not doing anything that the world actually needs. And you've got all this kind of stuff that looks like it should be producing cars or something. It's just not their vision of how art is made.
Barry X Ball reimagines sculpture. He's looking back at ancient subject matters, sort of sculptures from antiquity, and he's putting a technological spin on it that is entirely new. When you see the pieces, they're just haunting, and then when you also learn the story of how they were created, you kind of feel like something very old is now suddenly very present. The cool thing is, he's part of a huge generation of artists now who have just a much bigger playground.
Contemporary artists use outside fabricators a lot. The problem with it that I've found is that it's a bit like ordering something up and then it gets delivered. And you lose a lot by not seeing that whole process.
There are a handful of artists who are able to do what he's doing. The nice thing about what Barry's trying to do is keep it all under one roof so that he can maintain as much creative control as possible.
Yeah, that's what this is, right here. I prefer to hold on to all the power that the original sculpture has and take it to a place that wouldn't have been possible with the technology of the time, literally carving them better than they were able to back then. The classic form of the Pieta is the mother of Jesus holding the body of her dead son. In this depiction, it is almost as if the son is supporting the mother in her grief. In 2011, I scanned Michelangelo's Pieta Rondanini. I morphed a portrait of Michelangelo by one of his students so that it actually is the face of Jesus. Then he used the computer data to drive stone milling robots. That produced a rough milled stone sculpture, and then we took it to my studio to refine by hand all of the cutting that the robot had done. Typically, in a full-size sculpture like this, we have up to 10,000 hours of handwork. The sandblasting is always nerve-wracking because a couple times we've gone too far.
Michelangelo needed the Pope, plenty of other artists needed a king. Barry X Ball has collectors today.
I can kind of tell you that it is multi-six figures, getting close to $1 million to make a sculpture like this. And just from an economic standpoint, you need a patron, a buyer.
The artists today are doing the same. What's funny is that they're doing it so they can create spaces in which to make art rather than just the artworks themselves. For Barry, the problem is that he doesn't have a lot of auction prices. He has a couple. One piece sold for around $50,000, another for around $500,000. That's a huge swing, and therefore doesn't really tell us a whole lot about where his prices realistically are. I would say that he's at an interesting and challenging intersection because he is considered an established artist. A lot of artists sort of sit in that space, no longer an ingenue, not yet Picasso.
Soon all my stone from around the world, my deposits will be arriving and stacked in this front yard. The art world pretty much divides down the middle in their opinion of what I'm up to. Some people think I'm a great artist, and others think I'm a terrible historical reenactor, kitsch charlatan.
What's nice about what Barry's doing is he's sort of doubling down on his own career by creating this wonderland of a space that, if he can afford to keep it, I think will really reinvigorate what he's making.
We're getting close to $20 million to build this facility, so I have to pay all that money back. Back in the day, I said, you know what, I can try this, and if I want to, I can always go back to just me doing everything, making the piece. You know, you can't go back. I realize now that all my dreams are tied up in this one way of making art. I built kind of a dream palace to do my work, and now I want to get to it.